In recent years, Argentina has not gained a reputation for political stability or economic development. It seems to be a country in permanent crisis between hyperinflation, military coups, failed wars, failed economic policies, and a failed political system. But this wasn't always the case. There was a time when as rich as an Argentine was once a common phrase, back when Argentina had wealth and had a stable government. In fact, a few generations ago, Argentina was among the top 10 richest countries in the world. Its GDP was nearly half of all the countries in Latin America combined, and was more economically developed than Italy, France, and even Germany. With its trade amounting to 7% of global total, Argentina was the breadbasket of the world. However, things took a turn for the worse when the Great Depression took hold of the global economy and global trade sharply declined. As a result, Argentina's GDP dropped, external debt increased, capital flight took hold, and the country experienced hyperinflation like never seen before. What was once the superpower of Latin America quickly became a nation languishing in poverty. In response to crisis, the government implemented some very extreme interventionist and protectionist policies, many of which failed and brought the country further into decline. While other countries were implementing policies to facilitate and lower the barrier to free trade, Argentina remained a closed economy focused on industrializing within its borders and keeping the rest of the world out. But what made Argentina so successful in the first place? And what is happening now in the global economy that may finally push Argentina back to its place as an economic superpower? You are watching The Great Game. We upload weekly videos here asking the big questions about geopolitics and the competition between nations for influence and power. In order to understand Argentina's future, we first need to look at what made it so successful in the past. In his book Disunited Nations, the renowned geopolitical analyst Peter Zeihan describes 4 main elements to a country's economic success. Number 1, viable homelands with usable lands and defensible borders, a reliable food supply, sustainable population structure, and access to stable energy inputs to participate in modern life. And it just so happens Argentina checks all 4 of these boxes. And as I always like to do, let's start with food. In the heart of Argentina lies the Pampas region, one of the largest contiguous, naturally fertile pieces of land in the world. This region is so large that it covers several different climate zones, allowing for the growth of a variety of crops, including corn, soy, and wheat. Additionally, the entire Pampas region is far enough south of the equator that it actually sees winter, unlike most other countries in South America. The winter is especially important here as it kills insects and keeps pests under control. This drastically improves agricultural productivity and public health without the need for tons of medications and pesticides and herbicides. But what's most important is that the Pampas region produces enough food to feed Argentina's growing population and still be a top exporter of foodstuffs and produce. And the whole process of growing crops and transporting and ultimately exporting to other countries around the world requires very little infrastructure. This is because of a key feature of the Pampas. There are 3 separate navigable rivers that cut right through the region: the Paraguay, the Uruguay, and the Paraná rivers. Having navigable rivers allows for easy and cheap transportation of goods over long distances with very little upfront investment in infrastructure and pretty much zero maintenance costs. All you need is a few boats to get the job done. And because these 3 rivers cut right through the agricultural heartland of Argentina, you don't need a whole lot of road to get products to where they're going. But what makes these 3 rivers special is not just the fact that they cut through one of the most important agricultural lands in the world, but that they also merge together to form the Rio de la Plata, one of the largest estuaries in the world, right off the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. Essentially, This means that you can transport products from the heart of Argentina to the other side of the world with almost no roads and very little infrastructure costs. But agricultural produce isn't the only thing that Argentina exports to the world. In fact, they have a wide range of mineral wealth, including silver, copper, oil, and natural gas, as well as non-metallic minerals such as clay, limestone, granite, and marble. Argentina has so much natural wealth and is incredibly efficient in its transportation costs. But what use is the land of a country if you have no way to protect it? Argentina enjoys some of the most secure geography on the planet. The Atlantic Ocean protects it to the east, and the Andes Mountains protect it to the west. Additionally, because the country is so flat, it's easy for the state to project power and prevent any possible rebellion that may break up and divide the country. Furthermore, launching attacks from the sea by naval and landing forces against Argentina is almost impossible due to America's de facto enforcement of the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine is an American policy whereby South America is considered America's backyard and refuses to accept any foreign militaries get involved in the region. Essentially, this keeps any European or Asian military influence out of South America. And by the combination of all these factors, there may be no other country on the planet except possibly New Zealand with as good a physical security position as Argentina. One of the key components to a stable and growing economy is access to energy. Industry in Argentina is well served by the country's abundance of energy resources and has even become a petroleum exporter due to its massive surplus. Argentina has huge oil deposits, mainly in the northwest and the Patagonia region to the south. And it's in the latter region you will find a coming export boom: shale oil. Sites like the massive Vaca Muerta, billed as one of the most promising shale oil and gas basins outside of the US, have already been put into production. These basins may make Argentina a significant exporter of natural gas and oil in the near future. But in addition to its wealth of oil, Argentina generates a significant amount of electrical power through hydroelectric stations along its rivers, such as the Yacyretá Dam on the lower Paraná River, as well as through renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and nuclear. Argentina is also one of Latin America's main producers of nuclear power, with several nuclear plants in operation, and is one of the top 5 countries globally for solar and wind potential. Argentina takes its energy needs seriously because every watt of electricity generated locally through green power is another bit of petroleum available for export. And finally, a healthy economy requires a healthy community. Diseases that still affect much of South America, such as smallpox, cholera, yellow fever, and tuberculosis, have been brought under control or eliminated in Argentina. One result of this is that Argentinians have an average life expectancy of 76 years, one of the highest in Latin America. Argentina also has one of the most educated populations in Latin America. Literacy is nearly universal in the country. Primary education is compulsory and free. Secondary and higher education is offered in free public schools, and private schools are subsidized by the state. This has led to the mass migration of people from countryside rural areas to towns and cities. More than 9/10 of the population now live in urban areas, creating significant opportunities for the economy to produce value-added goods and services rather than just exporting natural resources and produce. Argentina's population is both young and aging slowly. While the population under age 15 is shrinking, the youth, 15 to 24, is the largest in Argentina's history and will continue to bolster the working age population. If this large working age population is well educated and gainfully employed, Argentina is likely to experience an economic boost and possibly higher per capita savings and investments. So with all the advantages Argentina has with its land, its borders, its location, and its population, why is Argentina still not the superpower it once was? As we mentioned at the beginning of this video, Argentina's economic problems stem from the Great Depression in the early 1930s. In order to deal with these problems, the government expanded state intervention in the economy. It renationalized the privatized industries, expanded measures to restrict imports, and further tightened currency controls in an effort to bolster foreign reserves and stem capital flight. In 1946, Juan Perón, one of Argentina's most famous leaders, rose to power by tapping into the grievances of the working class. He began a movement known as Peronism, defined by two characteristics: excessive interventionism and public spending. One of Perón's first moves was to nationalize the central bank. Every time Argentina had a problem, the Peronists promised more and more public spending. And to do so, they used the central bank to print money, devaluing the currency and leading it to hyperinflation. Perón also nationalized almost everything owned by foreigners, which scared off foreign investors in the country. Bad economic policies led to hyperinflation running rampant, foreign investors leaving the country, a closed economy to foreign imports, and Argentina was left lurching from one budget crisis to another. But the world isn't the same as it once was, and there are some major shifts occurring in the global economy right now. Many of the world's economic superpowers are about to go through economic contraction as the baby boomer generation is entering retirement. Germany, France, Japan, Korea, Italy, Portugal, and others all have huge waves of retirements coming in the next couple of years. It was this large generation that produced and consumed and contributed to the growth of the global economy, and with their imminent retirement, the smaller generations that follow will not be able to sustain the same level of economic activity. At the same time, we may be going through another 2008-style global recession in the near future. COVID-19 has hit the global economy hard, and we've yet to see the full repercussions. What happens when countries like Germany can no longer produce goods at the quality and quantity they used to? What happens when countries like Brazil, who have very expensive production and transportation costs, can no longer export their products because the world can't afford it? It's countries like Argentina, with its young and educated workforce and cheap manufacturing and transportation costs, that will be the next in line to lead the global economy. Argentina has all the necessary elements to become a successful country once again. Usable lands and defensible borders, a reliable food supply, sustainable population structure, and access to stable energy inputs. But never underestimate the power of bad economic policy and corrupt officials and politicians to completely negate every advantage and opportunity geography can offer. Argentina has a real chance to becoming the next Germany or the next Japan if only they could get the political leadership to not mess it up this time. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to hit the like button if you enjoy our work, it really helps us out. And subscribe for more weekly videos. Thanks and take care.